we've seen the two major political parties throw their last ammunition for Saturday. Your impressions about that final, did it make any, inroads at this time?
Well, first of all, let me say that I must commend the two political parties because, I mean, much earlier before the events today, some of us had expressed fears about the closeness of the two events, the venue,
locations, yeah,
and the likelihood that, something could happen as a result of the closeness. As we speak, we have not heard any untoward report of something so bad happening, and that is to celebrate the two political parties, the people who are leading them, and then also the police service for the job they have done thus far. Great effort, and I must commend all the people behind it. And of course, the media for the critical role they played in raising some of these critical issues as to drive the police to put the attention where attention has got to be put. Yeah. That having been said, I think in terms of the level of organization, I think the two political parties have pulled it off in a big way. But I would say that when it comes to production for purposes of media consumption, I think the NDC appears to have done a better job in terms of how they packaged their event today. You'll notice that at some point, the sound was poor. The lighting also went off at some point, and they had to make some quick attempts to resolve the issue. I think a greater effort needs to be made when you're dealing with your closing arguments, because people want to feel exactly what's happening there. People are not at the scene, they want to be taken there, and they want to be a part of the process of electing a new president. And if you deny them of, that in a certain way, it goes to affect your message getting out there. But beyond that, I think very cardinal messages were sent this evening. Yeah. We have heard the closing arguments of John Dramani Mahama, the former president who was seeking re-election, and then the vice president, Mahamudu Bawumia, who is seeking election as president of the republic. Basically, John Dramani Mahama is seeking a return to the presidency, and his argument is that I want to create jobs for you. I believe people are struggling. I went around this country and I've seen poverty written on the faces of people. The problem is jobs. I am promising that when I come, I know what it takes to create jobs so that the youth will have something to do. It's a major issue. When you go around the country, you hear that. Then he's talking about what? Accountability. You've had an NPP administration that has run affairs of Ghana for the past 8 years. We've had scandals upon scandals, some of which were not thoroughly investigated and perhaps prosecuted to the glory of God. So people are generally not happy about the state of affairs. The question is whether they believe that John Mahama's return, should that happen, lead to the kind of accountability that they expect. Then you also have the question of, what do you call it? There's one thing that he talks about, prosperity for all of us, that it would seem that under the current administration, you've seen concentration of wealth in the privileged few, and you hear all the names that get bandied about, and that the government does not appear to be distributing the wealth across the country. So he wants to fix that. Now, the reverse is John Mahamudu Bawumia, who says that, we have been able to turn this country around, only for COVID to come to smash us, only for the war in Russia, Ukraine, to undermine our efforts. But we told you that during COVID, we were capable of bringing the economy back to life, but not human beings. Now we are doing that. And if you look at the economic numbers, they will throw them up and say that, we have increased trade surplus. We have, the CD recently is performing fairly well. If you look at the history of the CD over the last couple of years and all of that. But people do remember the haircuts. So he's making the argument that, we'll be able to fix it going forward. So
I
have two more things to say.
No, we'll come back to that later. Our time is very limited. So tonight, gentlemen, I want you to keep it straight to the point. Papa, you have a lot of time on Saturday, Sunday, even Monday and Tuesday. So don't worry.
I thought I wanted to make it 3-3, but that's okay.
Well, I'll come back to you. Godfred, in 2 minutes, and 2 minutes goes round. Were you sold with whoever for Saturday based on the closing remarks and closing the curtain for Saturday, of course, for the past 4 years, but tonight, did it make any difference? And what do you think they could have done to make a difference if they didn't?
Well, I think that today for both parties reflected the kind of campaign that has been run. I think that the NDC put out an assured performance today on the final rally. I agree with Sky when he says that it was well organized, it was well put together in terms of the messaging, in terms of the personalities and the audience resonance. The NPP also put out a couple of strong names, but it's been staggered. If you look at the campaign they've run, it's been a campaign built around Bawumia's stardom by himself. They haven't had as much stars to spread around, so you've had Bawumia had to do a lot of legwork. Later to be supported by by a former president, Kufuor, and the sitting president. If you look at the NDC side, they've had quite a few stars to spread around. So Mahama hasn't had to do too much work. You've had the rise of Malik Basintale, you've had Sami Jemfi, you've had General Siedun Ketia run around, you've had Otukuno, you've had all these names spread around. And I think it's reflective of the kind of campaigns they run. As to whether everybody is sold on, I think it's a hard task for both parties. If you look at where they've been, the number of times they've been there, everybody understands what is at stake, where everybody has looked to maximize their resources the best way. So you look at the NPP, they didn't spend too much time in the Volta region because they know they won't get much out of it. If you look at the NDC, spent quite a bit of time in the Ashanti region because they know exactly what they want to get out of it as well. So in the end, it becomes a matter of we are working hard till the very last minute to convince a lot of people. In the end, those who showed up today are those who they know they can convince. They've already convinced them. Perhaps they were talking to those they have not been able to convince. Whether they've been able to do that, Saturday will tell.
We'll see that on Saturday. Mr. Larry, what do you think?
Oh, I think it went well. Yeah, it went well. I mean, to have, as the two, my two colleagues said, to have brought their supporters to this level of, closeness.
Without any incident.
Yes, Ayawaso and then Medina, without an incident. Without an incident because when I was coming to town, I noticed the presence of, policemen almost at every corner that, you could think of. And traffic control was also okay and so on. And I think that by and large, they did well. On the message, I think, like Akoto said, I mean, we already know what we are voting for, okay? Whether we are voting for continuity, those who want to vote for continuity knows what they've already decided. And those who also want a change, they've also made up their mind. And so much of what happens today will not change anything.
It wouldn't change for anybody?
No, I don't think so. Okay. It wouldn't change much.
Just the final chorus in church?
I think so. They're just restating, whatever they have told people already. Yeah.
Hello, you agree?
Yeah, largely yes. I think it was a good program on both sides. Quite impressive on both sides as well. The messaging, I think, is just a restatement of everything they've said in the past and trying to pitch for the last time to the generality of Ghanaians. In terms of the crowd size, yes, between NDC and NPP, I'm not sure you can pick anything, in terms of crowd size. They both have the numbers to marshal a lot of people at a place. So you can't use crowd size to make any major difference. For me, I want to look at the Kufuor factor. You realize that they deployed Kufuor towards the last lap of the campaign quite effectively. Yeah. We saw that interview, the primetime interview with the Ashanti region journalist in his house. Yeah. And he spoke Twi in that interview. That told you that Kufuor is a very important factor or asset to the NPP. And that interview, in my view, was addressing specifically the Ashanti audience. Right. So we saw that they used the face of the media in Ashanti region to do that. After that, he went to the Eastern region, after a while. So we saw the reaction from that interview. Alan was not happy. Alan thought that Kufuor had thrown him under the bus, etc., etc. He wasn't happy. It got to Kufuor as well. So Kufuor went to the Ochinhine's palace and said that people say statement, you don't have to say some things, but he said it, and that Bawumia was a man of destiny. Yeah. That was a major endorsement of the man Bawumia. Talked about how he met him in some program abroad, he came to do a presentation, blah, blah, blah. Major endorsement of the man Bawumia. Major, even more seminal or more impactful than what Nanado himself would have done, So we saw Kufuor in that sense He went ahead to do a few other things. And today, they drove him to the place in his wheelchair. He took quite some amount of time to push the Bawumia message. Why did they do that? In my view, they did so because Kufuor, as it stands now, cuts across. It's a very important figure in the NPP, and it's not as divisive as it was years ago in the country.
When
so it's a rallying
yeah.
point for many people. You know, it gets like that.
Yeah.
As we speak, Nana Addo is quite a contentious or a divisive figure. As time goes on, the divisiveness will reduce. Now it is this record that is on the table. It is this record the NDC is attacking, and Bawumia is running on this record, so he has a stake in it. He has to say some things. There was a reason why people didn't expect Kufuor to endorse Bawumia the way he did, even though I thought there was nothing wrong with it, because that is his party.
His party, yeah.
You know, people didn't expect him to do so because they consider him a statesman. Nana Addo is a statesman, but he's the president. His record is what is under attack. So people expect him to be active in the race. You know, so we saw all of that. We saw him today talk, addressing the people. A lot of the people they are seeking to address are the people in the Ashanti region. And we've seen how important Ashanti region has been in this campaign. In fact, Mahama left Ashanti region straight to the campaign ground, or to the rally ground. I understand, yeah. What's the name? Bawumia also was in Ashanti region today. Even at the last minute.
He came back yesterday.
Came back last night. Telling you that Ashanti region has been key. Bawumia spending over 15 days in Ashanti.
But the president was also in the region today.
You know, so it tells you how important that region is. So having Kufuor as an asset, you don't leave him unused. So I think they milked him enough, and I think it was a good strategy. Generally.
Okay.